Welcome, everybody, to the Aravosis Report. John Aravosis here. Let me get rolling on TikTok. Yeah, that looks right. Boom. And then we'll get rolling, and we'll see if TikTok crashes today, because since I rebooted my iPad, this will now tell us for sure if it's TikTok. Oh, God, what are they doing now? Oh, God, I hate when they do this. Dear Lord, they changed it again. Oh, my God. TikTok is like the old politically incorrect Helen Keller jokes. I swear to God, every day they change something. They did it again. Oh my God. Flip camera, that's the wrong thing. I'm going to kill them. Oh my God. Good morning or good evening, everybody. Good morning, everybody on TikTok, or evening. TikTok decided to change everything to make it very difficult for me to flip my camera. Mirror your video. Oh my God. They changed the settings again on TikTok. It's like, it reminds me of my dad years ago, when I think he was like 80 at the time, former engineer, so very smart guy, but would go, okay, Windows, they updated it again and they changed everything. Why did they change everything? And I was like, Dad, I don't know. But they would change, like, the home screen or whatever you call it, the desktop on Windows every time. And it was just very frustrating. Thank you, Ginger, for that. Anyway, hello, everybody. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show talking about the latest news from Ukraine. Take about half an hour to talk about the news, and then about half an hour to answer your questions. And I'm going to take my ski jacket and put it over my dog, who likes to kind of get cuddly next to me. The way we do this is on TikTok. You can submit questions via the Q&A link in my profile. For the rest of you, obviously use the comment box at the bottom. I am independent media. If you want to support my work, and I would appreciate it if you would. Nobody else is doing it, just you guys, and I am doing this full time. You can give gifts on TikTok, as you well know, and I will try to thank you when I see them. And you can give super chat questions and super stickers on YouTube. All right, guys, let's dig right in. Oh, and don't forget to follow me. I haven't been mentioning this lately. Please do follow. That helps as well. Thank you, dear Benji, for the gifts there, and Sniper and Saint Firebug. But please do follow me as well. That's one great way to help support my work and know what's going on. So, creepy story from Sky News, but also a number of reports have been covering this tonight, that the Ukrainians have reportedly discovered a children's torture chamber. Now, I'm just going to read you the story from Sky. In the southern port city of Kherson. Now, Kherson, I might as well grab my handy-dandy map and show you guys. Kherson is a city that up until recently was occupied by the Russians. It's free now. It's liberated. The province of Kherson. Now, one thing I always remind folks, there is a province of Kherson and there is a town of Kherson, okay? The province of Kherson is here. The town of Kherson is here right north of the river, and the Ukrainians have liberated the part of Kherson province that is north of the river, okay? But so the town itself was liberated as well. The Ukrainians have been operating in there. The Russians are still. So I'm going to move some of my plate out of the way so I don't get my, there we go. My map doesn't get dirty. So it's in the southern port city of Kherson. The Kyiv Independent reports that Ukraine's human rights commissioner is saying that the room was where Russian forces allegedly detained and tortured children during the city's occupation, reportedly named the children's cell. Those inside the room were subject to psychological abuse at the hands of Russian troops. And this testimony came from locals. So what's interesting is this isn't just the Ukrainian government claiming this. These are locals in town who are saying this is what was taking place there. Children were also given little water. In other words, they were not given much water and almost no food. I have nothing. I just have, I will say this. The more we hear these kind of stories, once again, the more I've got to ask, and I'll talk in a second again about the Patriot missiles that we're sending, but, maybe it's time that we stopped sending Ukraine defensive weapons and started sending them offensive weapons. Thank you, Dedike, for that. But by the difference, I mean, is we're sending Ukraine weapons to help stop Russian missiles from coming in. Great. How about giving Ukraine weapons that they can fire to stop the Russian missiles from coming altogether? Wouldn't that be a great thing, right? Still don't want to do that because, we'll talk about that in a second. CNN is reporting that, thank you, Al, for that. CNN is reporting that a former Russian soldier who escaped to Europe and is claiming that he was part of the unit in Bucha. Remember the Bucha that did all the horrific war crimes. Now there have been horrific war crimes, all over Ukraine in terms of what the Russians have done. Bucha was the one that at the beginning of the war, we found out about it. Thank you, Annie. We found out about it maybe mid-April or something, but basically, actually not even mid-April, probably the beginning, because Russia invades from the north, okay? They come all the way down to Kyiv, the capital. And then remember, over the next month, the Ukrainians kicked their butt and kicked the Russians out. Well, when they kicked the Russians out, one of the towns that was liberated was Bucha, B-U-C-H-A in English. And when the media and the Ukrainian troops came into the town, thank you, Darlene, for that. When the media and the Ukrainian troops came into the town, they saw dead bodies everywhere. Remember, this was the town where, I always give this example, the old man who was riding his bicycle and they just shot him on his bike and he's lying sideways still on his bicycle dead. I mean, horrific, the deaths of civilians. Well, which are war crimes, of course. You can't just kill civilians. So this guy, Nikita Chibrin is his name, or Chibrin, thank you, Yukon, for that, claims that his unit had a direct command to murder. They were directly told to murder anyone sharing information about his unit's position, whether that be military personnel or civilians. He told CNN, thank you, Sherry, for that. He told CNN, if someone had a phone, we were allowed to shoot them. There are maniacs who enjoy killing a man. Such maniacs turned up there. He also told a story in which two of his fellow troops ran away after allegedly raping two Ukrainian women in an area northwest of Kyiv, the capital. He said, I saw them run. Then I learned what they had done. They raped a mother and a daughter, he said. However, he said his Russian commanders simply shrugged. They were never jailed. They were simply fired. So I guess to the Russian troops' credits, they did get rid of the guys, but they didn't even hold them accountable for what they did. And again, these are war crimes. I mean, these aren't just war crimes. These are serious war crimes, right? Like, it's a war crime to parade an enemy soldier in front of cameras or something, right? For propaganda purposes. There are war crimes. My point is, there are worse and less worse war crimes, believe it or not. And this would be one of the worst ones. You don't just say, well, you're fired. Oh, well. And mind you, you're fired, but he'll probably make his way back into the military anyway. Just to remind folks, I am John Aravosis. You are watching the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. The way this works is I go through the news for about half an hour, and then I take your guys' questions. Thank you, McFadge, for that. And while we're talking, you guys sometimes give me gifts on TikTok, which I very much appreciate, because I am doing this for full time, and I'm doing it for free. Nobody else pays me other than you guys, so I appreciate you supporting my work. It helps me keep going, so thank you for that. And on YouTube, of course, the Super Chat questions. I also have a Patreon set up, patreon.com/Aravosis. Thank you, Nancy and Andrew, both. I've got the hat on while I'm doing the Galaxy, and then James Boudreau for the whale. The TikTok gifts are pouring in. Thank you. The wave. We always do the wave for the whale. The wave. Thank you guys on TikTok for that. And I've got a Patreon as well, patreon.com/Aravosis. I tell folks, if you've been watching for months and you really enjoy the show, maybe consider going over there and sign up for $5 a month. If you can, it helps support my work. And it also gives you access to some of the VIP auctions over on Discord, which we'll talk about in a second. Voice of America, Pentagon, Voice America is confirming again today that Pentagon sources are saying that the U.S. will be sending Patriot missiles, the missile systems, over to Ukraine. It still has to be approved by Biden. Thank you, Harold, for that. Still has to be approved by President Biden. What the Patriot systems are, and again, it's worth kind of going through it again for folks, I think, because story just came out yesterday, but not all of you are here at the same time. The Patriots are a defensive missile system to shoot other missiles out of the sky. Okay. It can be used against airplanes, pretty much anything in the sky, but it is typically used to shoot down missiles. What happened is the U.S. reportedly got, concerned about the Russians buying these new Iranian missiles that can go up to 300 kilometers range, 200 miles, and very effective missiles, very powerful missiles. And the U.S. and NATO were very concerned about what this is going to do to Ukraine when they get these weapons, the Russians. So we, in principle, right, this is the report. Biden sometime this week is going to approve, the sources say, for Ukraine to get the Patriot missile systems. That would be a big deal. One thing I explained to you guys last night, and just explained again, the way Patriot missiles work, it's not like it's a missile that protects the entire country. It doesn't work that way. It is a missile that can go up about, depending, there's various variants of the Patriot missile. There's like a 1, 2, and 3, and this kind of stuff. But in general, they can go about 80,000 excuse me. I'm watching the llama come up on the screen. Thank you for that. It's me. Oh, Callum. Thank you, Callum. They can go up about 80,000 feet in the air. That's about 24,000 meters. Their range sort of horizontally, depending on the Patriot, it could be 60 miles, it could be 100 kilometers, but usually less. It just depends on sort of the missile system. So the idea is they can go a decent distance, but when you're talking, 20 to 60 miles any direction, that helps you protect a city. It doesn't help you protect a country. Okay, so the idea is that, thank you, Brandy, for that. Brendy, I should say, thank you. So the idea is that the Ukrainians would be using these systems to protect. Now, what does that mean? That means something that they really, 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 really don't want the Russians blowing up. What we know so far is that, check real quick here. Okay, some people are complaining on TikTok that there's not the delay, but okay, there's a delay. Yeah. There's always a delay, but I mean, is TikTok playing games today, or is TikTok being okay? I just want to, sorry, folks over on YouTube. Is TikTok behaving? Because I can always relaunch it, but I always get nervous about that, just to make sure it's fine. Okay. Hey, Nomi, thank you for that. Okay. Yeah, unless Callum was saying, I know there's a delay between when you post it and when I see it. Now that is true, or vice versa. Okay, we're good. Okay, good. So these would be for high value targets. Keep in mind, Ukraine is already doing a very good job shooting down Russian missiles so far. And certainly the Iranian drones the Russians are throwing at them, right? Somewhere from 70 to 90%, even as much as 100%, we're hearing in some of these attacks, the Ukrainians are shooting down, right? That's great. I mean, that's great. So the question becomes, if the Ukrainians are already shooting down a lot of stuff, you would want to save the Patriots for like the most important attacks, the most deadly attacks, and protecting your most important systems. That means that the Patriot systems are going to have to be sort of interwoven with the current air defense systems that the Ukrainians already have, because basically you don't want, for example, let's say the Russians launch one missile, I don't know, at one really big honking missile at Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital. You don't want the Patriot system and the current Ukrainian system both firing at that missile. That's a waste of ammunition, of resources, right? You want to have a system in place where you're able to say, okay, that coming in, it's a drone. We can use our typical system. That coming in, it looks like it's going after a target that we care about, but we don't care about as much. That coming in, that's going after the major power plant for the city of Kyiv. We need to make sure we take that missile down. Let's use the Patriot to take it down. You've got to have a system that can talk to itself and negotiate that, and with people helping it. So that's what the Ukraine's going to be getting. This is a big deal. Defense experts say this is a very big deal that Ukraine is getting this system. The Russians clearly aren't happy about it. It will help the Ukrainians to shoot down the new lot of Iranian missiles that are coming to the Russians. What bothers me is that, am I hitting my mic? Sorry. What bothers me is that we need to give Ukraine offensive weapons. Giving them this to stop the Iranian missiles, all that does is help. I mean, it doesn't really help advance them on the battlefield. I still feel like we are playing this game, and it annoys me. It just annoys me that we're constantly saying, and mind you, this is considered escalation already. The administration is considering this is edgy, that we're giving Ukraine more missiles to defend itself against Russian missiles. We're not even giving them missiles to shoot where the Russian missiles come from. That's not what the Patriot does. Patriot shoots things out of the sky, right? I mean, all it is defending them. It's like giving them bulletproof vests. I mean, that's nice, but how about if we give them guns? Anyway, it really, really ticks me off with this. In any case, the message bot should be working today, but if it's not, I can't tell you why. I do have the system is on and the message bot should be working, but who knows? Who knows? Syndicate would have to look into why it's not sending messages out. Let me keep going here. So, deep. Oh, Russia has deployed at least 60 additional military vehicles to Belarus, its dictator ally north of Ukraine. This story just keeps getting weirder and weirder. So just to show you guys, okay, we've got Ukraine, right? Outside, you've got Russia over here, sort of northeast, over here. Okay, so this is Russia. And mind you, Russia's huge. I mean, Russia spans like 11 time zones. So Russia's much bigger than what I'm showing you with my hand, okay? It also goes way over here. But you've got Russia here. Here, next to Russia, west of Russia and then northwest of Ukraine, you've got Belarus. Belarus, which is up here, is a dictatorship. It is run by the dictator Lukashenko. Very brutal dictatorship. He is best friends with Putin. He has been helping Putin in the war. The Belarusians let Russian troops come into Ukraine and shoot and come down. Okay, and come down to invade Ukraine. Let Russian troops come into Belarus and come down to invade Ukraine. So they are certainly a party to this war, but Ukraine has not been attacking Belarus, partially or probably in large factor because they really don't want Belarus to enter the war, even though Belarus doesn't have a very large military. It is believed that Putin really wants Belarus to enter the war, okay, and that he pretty much has put the screws to the Belarusian dictator and said, I saved your butt several years ago when your people were going to overthrow you. Invade Ukraine. Well, Belarusians are not invading, but the Russians keep making more and more motions acting like they're invading, like they're going to invade again. There's going to be an invasion through Belarus. As I said, today we found out that at least 60 additional military vehicles were sent from Russia to Belarus last week. There's been a lot of troop movements, a lot of exercises and things. Bottom line is the defense experts still feel that this is all a feint. It is all a bluff. It is all, and again, I'll show you on the map, it is all a way to get Ukrainian troops tied up at the border with Belarus and not fighting where they should be fighting. The two big centers of fighting right now in Ukraine are here in the east, around the town of Bakhmut and other town of Kremina, okay? So more or less eastern Ukraine, like right over here. The other center is here in Kherson, right? That we're hearing a lot of fighting. There may be fighting soon here in Melitopol. That's another possibility. Eventually Crimea. Okay, but what are you seeing? I'm even going to back up so you can really see. But what are we seeing? Everywhere I'm talking about fighting is here, 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 here. It's not here, which is where Belarus is here. Wouldn't it be great if the Belarusians could convince the Ukrainians that there's a possibility of an attack coming from here, and therefore the Ukrainians have to leave more troops up here just in case, because troops up here are not fighting down here, down here, down here, down here, down here, right? So it's a big waste of time for the Ukrainians to have troops up here, because it's not just troops, it would be weapons with the troops, it might be artillery. I mean, it's this is one of the reasons why the defense experts think this is still a bluff. So who knows? That's what they're saying. More dumb nuclear threats from the Russians. This was, they're doing it again. This is from a Russian commander in the eastern Ukraine. I'll just read this to you. Russia, this came, I believe this came from Sky News, I think. Russia can't defeat the NATO bloc in Ukraine without using nuclear weapons, he said. Commander Alexander Khodakovsky of the Russian militia in the Donetsk region of Ukraine said on Russia One television that Moscow's resources are limited. He also claimed that Russia is now fighting the entire Western world. I mean, they are, which is why the next escalation of the Ukraine war can only be one: nuclear. Only be one, meaning one. Only one, nuclear. I mean, now the thing is, if you don't want to think of it as a nuclear threat, he's actually telling the truth. That the only way, well, it's not even winning, but it is true. Russia's not gonna win this war, right? Russia's not going to win this war using conventional weapons. That's the interesting admission. He's a Russian commander. even if he might be a Ukrainian working for the Russians, whatever. But he's admitting that they can't win this war conventionally. Conventionally meaning non-nuclear, meaning normal weapons of war that aren't nuclear weapons. He thinks they'll win it with nuclear weapons. That shows that the guy's a dodo, but it also shows perhaps that he's being put up to this, because the thing is, they're showing this on Russia One, which is like the big national Russian channel. Thank you, Meg Wood, for that. The big Russian channel. And I've been saying for a while now that, one, you are not going to win a nuclear war against NATO, and NATO isn't going to win a nuclear war against Russia. It doesn't happen. Both the Russians, the Americans, not both, the Russians, the Americans, the French, and the British all have nuclear submarines. Those submarines are hiding, 1,000, 1,300 feet under the ocean. Nobody can find them. You're not going to find nuclear submarines, and they have lots of nuclear missiles on them, and those nuclear missiles will take off and kill lots of people if you want them to. Those missiles will not be destroyed if Russia attacks America. I always sort of give the example, and it's not meant to be a scary example. It's meant to be an example showing you it ain't going to happen, okay? Let's say that Russia decides to listen to this guy, and you know what? They're just going to use nuclear weapons to win this war, and they're going to attack NATO and blah, blah, blah. Okay, what's going to happen next is that NATO is going to use its nuclear weapons, remaining weapons on land. Let's say he destroys all the nuclear weapons on the American mainland, right? All of them. He even's able to destroy the airplanes carrying nuclear weapons with cruise missiles and stuff. Maybe. He will not be able to touch our nuclear submarines. We've got like a dozen or more of them. And those nuclear submarines will, even if everyone's dead, they will respond and they will wipe Russia off the map. Let's pretend that America was stupid enough to attack Russia, that we were stupid enough to use nuclear weapons to attack Russia. Let's say we killed every Russian citizen on the mainland of Russia. You know what Russia's going to do? Russia's going to use its nuclear submarines that have lots of nuclear weapons and missiles, and those missiles are going to come out and they're going to blow up America and kill all of us. That is why nobody is using nuclear weapons against NATO, and nobody in NATO is using nuclear weapons against Russia. This guy is either an idiot for suggesting it, because, again, people in the Kremlin are going, you're nuts. America's just going to fire back. Or he's trying to freak us out. And I think he's trying to freak us out because I think that's why, at the very least, he may be an idiot, but Russia One, which is one of the big national TV networks in Russia, they played his interview because they're trying to scare us. They're trying to convince us that they're crazy. They might use nuclear weapons. Oh my God, right? If the Russians are so crazy, then maybe they will use nukes. And if they will use nukes, we've got to do everything we can to stop them from using nukes, which means we've got to, listening to Elon Musk and all the crazy far left and far right people, we've got to do everything we can to force Ukraine to stop this war now, even if it means Ukraine giving up land, because we don't want to die in a nuclear war. Again, if I'm Vladimir Putin, that's the message I want out there. I want to scare the hell out of every one of you that I'm just crazy enough to start a nuclear war. So isn't it better for Ukraine just to lose half its or 20% of its territory and to save us from a nuclear war, right? This is all propaganda. It's all propaganda. What else we got? 20% of Ukraine's pre-war population. Oh, there's some data coming out today. 20% of Ukraine's pre-war population has left the country since February 24th, the day the Russians invaded. 20% of the country are refugees outside of the country. An additional 4.9 million people have had to relocate domestically due to Russia's war. In other words, they're internal refugees. They're refugees within Ukraine. Now, that's a little over 10%. I don't even know the exact numbers. It'd be 11, 12%. Ukraine is about 43 million people. Okay. So 4.9 million means a little over 10%. So you've got 20% that are already living abroad now, having escaped as refugees, and you've got another 10% that have been displaced in the country. So that's 30% of the people that had to leave their homes. Not small. What else we got here? Oh, I'll do a quick little reset and then a little more news. Today isn't as big of a news day, which is actually good because we can have more time for questions and discussion, which I enjoy. So that's good. I am John Aravosis. You're watching the Aravosis Report, my daily show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Thank you, Hazel, for the Galaxy gift. That is one of my faves. Big Star Watcher here. big meteor shower, the Geminids, going on, I believe, tonight, or at least the next couple of days. This is my show where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. I'm almost done doing the news section, and then we'll do the question and answer. You guys can put questions now if you want, or just comments like your take on something in the Q&A link on TikTok, or you can use the comment box at the bottom of the screen here on YouTube. Please do keep the gifts coming. I am independent media. That's how I make my that's why I make my living nowadays. I decided to do this full time. I mean, I've been doing social media and internet stuff for 30 years. Thank you, Benji, for that. But I decided when the war started that I wanted to, thank you, Bonnie, for that. I wanted to, and Marcy, everyone's going, again, TikTok, on TikTok, you guys crack me up. It's always like, boom, everybody, like the deluge. No, I love it. Thank you. But yeah, I decided when the war hit that I was going to use sort of my social media skills and my journalism and my foreign policy background to try to just keep people sort of educated and help the Ukrainians to the best degree I can. Thank you, El, for that. So I appreciate your guys' help. I've got the Discord. Yeah, so I've got a Discord set up. A Discord is basically an online community where you can keep talking, after the fact. Thank you, Victor, for that, or Victoria, if that was. And Hazel, thank you. That is one of my faves too. Nice outer space feel, Jerry. The Discord is pretty cool. We've got a Discord set up where basically it's kind of an ongoing conversation you can have. It's kind of hard to explain Discord unless you go over there. It almost is like the old bulletin boards or chat rooms in a way. It's not really a chat room, but kind of, where people go. A lot of us go and hang out there. We talk Ukraine. We talk lots of other topics, fun stuff, serious stuff. And I've got auctions set up there, which are kind of cool. We've been doing Ukrainian auctions, Ukrainian stuff that I've been having sent from Ukraine. I just auctioned off one of these shirts that Melissa won that I will be signing on the show for her. I've got a Zelensky shirt, the combat shirts that Zelensky wears that we were able to order from the same company. I'm going to put one of those up tomorrow. I've got some really cool commemorative stamps from Ukraine of the Kerch Bridge getting blown up, the tractor pulling the farmer pulling the tractor, and the other one is the I'm already spacing out. The other one's the best one that everybody likes. I'm already forgetting. Oh, the Russian warship Go F Yourself one that everybody loves. Go check that out, discord.aravosis.com. Now, Starship Designer is asking on YouTube, with your answer yesterday, were you inferring that Putin is not the one making the decisions, that someone else pushed him into war? No. What I am suggesting is, thank you, Webb, for that. What I am suggesting is that Putin is the kind of leader who makes it very scary for anyone to tell him he's wrong. I think Putin wanted to go into this war. I think people were afraid to tell him no. People were afraid to tell him we don't have enough troops, we don't have enough everything. And at the same time, I think Putin's the kind of guy who said, if you better have enough troops, and if you can't do it, I'll throw you out a window and I'll put someone who can. So the commander said, okay, what do I do? Right? I mean, you're in a dictatorship. It's not like he can call the newspapers and quit in a public way, right? The general's going to get thrown out the window if he does that. So I think Putin is clearly to blame, but Putin also got a lot of bad information. But the reason Putin got the bad information is it is a very corrupt system in Russia, but also he helped make it more corrupt because he made it clear he didn't want to hear bad news from people, so they don't want to give him bad news. And I'm sorry, but he's kind of a stupid leader. He's a stupid leader. I mean, we all know Russia's corrupt as hell. Putin didn't know Russia's corrupt as hell. Putin didn't suspect that maybe he was getting some bad news from, bad information from people. Come on, So anyway, that was what I was getting. A little more news here. 64 Ukrainian prisoners of war have returned from Russian captivity in a prison swamp. They include a U.S. Air Force veteran, Swedi Murekezi, who was freed as well. The United Kingdom is going to train 90 Ukrainian judges for war crimes trials against Russian soldiers. The first group of judges have already started training on December 5th at an undisclosed location. The Pope is urging, actually, I'll get to the Pope in a second. That'll be the last story. The European Parliament approved 18 billion euro aid package for Ukraine after they reached a deal with Hungary. Basically, they had to bribe Hungary to go along, and they bribed Hungary, and Hungary came along because Hungary is the Turkey of the EU. They just have to, not very democratic, and at the same time, you have to bribe them to do stuff, and they know it. And the final story is the Pope is urging people around the world to spend less on Christmas gifts and send the extra money to the Ukrainians. He said, let's have a more humble Christmas with more humble gifts and send what we save to the Ukrainian people who need it. Now, I wanted to end on that story because I set up a link on TickTock, and I've got it here for you guys as well on YouTube, etc. Let me post this here. This is totally cool. On TikTok, you can either go to my profile and look to the Linktree link and click it, and that's like a bunch of links and the top link there, or you can just click the link erevosis.com if you want to type it in yourself. mylastname.com is the same thing, takes you to a series of links. The top link is a program the Ukrainian government set up soliciting Santa Claus or Saint Nicholas letters from kids around Ukraine asking for gifts for their family. And a lot of them are very young kids, so that the parents themselves, you can tell, wrote the letters because it's written by a 2-year-old. You know, the 2-year-old didn't write the letter, but it'll be things like, you know, I have a brother and 2 sisters and we don't have money for gifts. A lot of them are asking for tangerines, which I can only guess is a traditional Ukrainian kind of New Year's thing. I don't know. It's got to be, because I saw multiple kids ask for tangerines, and I was like, tangerines? It is the cutest thing. As I said, I went there last night and donated. You can, when you go to the link I gave you, it'll be really obvious. You scroll down and you just look at each letter and you read each letter. You can click a little button because some of the kids did drawings. And when you click, thank you, PJ, for that. When you click the button that says help, it then says, do you want to spend, I forget if it's $14 US or $27 US, something like that. And you pick it's only one or the other. You pick which one, you put your credit card, boom. And it is a website set up and literally operated by the Ukrainian government. So if you look at the URL, the web address, you'll see gov.ua or whatever it is, which means it's the Ukrainian government. So I totally trust it. As I said, I wouldn't put it out there just anybody, but being from the Ukrainian government, I was like, oh my God. And honestly, they're kind of adorable. I mean, and some of them are very sad because you can tell these families just really, really need help. So anyway, as I said, check out the links I sent or the links in my profile or the link in my profile, and it's right there. Obviously, I'm getting nothing for this, but somebody had posted it. It is on my Linktree. Yes. Somebody had posted it last night on our Discord. And I was like, oh my God, this is so absolutely adorable, you know? Oh, and the way it works. So the way it works, you can find the link by going to my profile on TikTok. And you'll see the link in my profile says a Linktree. Click it, top link on the page you land on. Or go to erevosis.com, mylastname.com, click it, and it'll take you to a page of links. Again, the top link you'll see, because I mentioned give Santa gifts for kids in Ukraine, blah, blah, blah. Click that link. The way it works is your money will then be given to the family as a gift certificate that they will spend in an online store that the Ukrainian government reached a deal with, and the kid's family will order and have it sent to them. And I think if you sign up, if you sign up, maybe you can find out when they spent it or whatever. But it was asking for my cell phone number, and I was like, you know what? I don't like giving people my cell phone number, so I didn't do it. What do you do? In any case, it was very cool. So do check it out, guys. All right, and the last little thing is I do have a store set up as well, store.erevosis.com. Go check that out as well for lots of cool Ukrainian stuff, Ukrainian-themed stuff. So let's go and do the question and answer period. We got a good half hour or so. Do follow me on TikTok and YouTube and everywhere else. Please hit those buttons for sure. And let's check this out. Hold on, I'll pull up my Q&A links here on TikTok. One moment. Yeah, TikTok doesn't always let people do it, unfortunately. I don't mind, I don't mind if you guys put questions here. I just don't see them all, but I see some of them. Ben is asking, hey, Ben, thank you for that. Do you think Russia releasing that interview of the Russian commander talking about nukes is timed with the U.S. talking about giving Ukraine Patriot missiles? Yes, I think so. Yeah, this was this was sort of Russia's weird response, right? We're giving Ukraine, at least the news says, Biden is going to approve giving Ukraine Patriot missiles this week, which are a missile defense system, very advanced, very effective missile defense system at shooting down incoming missiles. And the Russians are peeved, so they're talking about nuclear war again. And frankly, it makes sense. I mean, as I said before, if you're Putin and you're trying to convince the U.S. to not give Ukraine better weapons, then you need to convince the U.S. that this war has to end now, and that giving better weapons to Ukraine will only make the Russians angry. And just like the Incredible Hulk, you won't like me when I'm angry. That's what the Russians keep presenting the, oh my God, we don't want to make Putin mad because he's a little crazy. Who knows what he does? When he's cornered, he's dangerous. And they have to keep presenting the image of they'll use nuclear weapons, even though it's crazy, because obviously we all die and they die too. They're not like us. You know what? They're like us enough that they don't want to die. So, yes, Elon Musk did deactivate Ukrainian numbers from being able to log into Twitter. That was a whole thing last night. Actually, not just that. Let me pull this. I don't know if I can pull this up because I'm usually busy angrily tweeting at Elon so much of the day that I don't have everything. But let me, this came out last night. And let me see if I can find this for you. Just more garbage that Elon Musk is doing to the Ukrainians. And interestingly, this was put out by a top advisor to President Zelensky, tweeted this. And hang on a second here. Hang on here. One second here. Like I said, this is an advisor to Zelensky. Here we go. War in Ukraine, between quotes. So the phrase war in Ukraine has disappeared from Twitter trends. Now, those of you who understand Twitter will understand this. There's been a radical curtailment of tweets mentioning Russian aggression coverage. So people covering Russia's war, their tweets are starting to disappear and not be shared. Users aren't allowed to register or log into accounts with Ukrainian phone numbers because depending, I haven't registered. I mean, I registered my Twitter account, 14 years ago or whatever. But if you're trying to either, well, back in the old days, be verified or now buy the, Twitter Blue or whatever the hell it is, actually, maybe even set up a new account. I don't know. You need a phone number. Well, the literal name Ukraine has dropped off Twitter's list. The list you click of countries, Ukraine's no longer mentioned. So Ukrainians can't sign up. No, it's Elon. It's Elon trying to do Putin a favor. I mean, honestly, I think he's like Donald Trump in this regard. He wants something. I mean, he's also bruised ego boy. Clearly, and boy, I mean, literally boy. He's bruised ego boy. The Ukrainians were mean to me. But he also probably wants something from Putin. That'd be my guess. Space Karen, exactly. Where everybody started calling him Space Karen, which actually is such a good name. Only provided Starlink because he expected to bill a government a ludicrous amount for it. Yeah, no, it's crazy. And now he's complaining that Starlink is losing money. But to some degree, I'm like, you offered it for free to Ukraine. You don't offer it for free and then 5 months later go, well, you know what? It's really expensive. I don't want to do it anymore. I mean, I get. Then don't do it. But you don't offer a gift, and then literally in the middle of the war, when Starlink, which Starlink is Elon Musk's internet service that works via satellite, very effectively and very important for regions that can't get an internet connection. In this case, it's because it's Bye, David. Don't know if you're trying to be rude, but you are, Blanche. In this case, it's Ukraine being so shot up from the Russians, they don't have internet. So they're using the Starlink quite effectively. A lot of the troops are using it. I mean, it's been really important for them to help coordinate their military attacks using this. And after several months of Musk saying, Musk said, this is important work. We're going to give it to you for free. He turned around several months later and said, this is too expensive. I'm cutting it off in 30 days. It's over unless you find a way to pay for it. And everybody was like, dude, so then people criticized him. And then he got up in arms saying, no good deed goes unpunished. And it was like, And I wrote this not thinking he'd read it, but I wrote a tweet and I was like, you don't understand. Like, people thought it was really cool you did this. You were praised for it. I praised you. I would have no problem with you being paid to help Ukraine, right? The government should pay you potentially for Starlink, right? Why not? Because he said other people are getting paid. But you went out there and you offered to do Starlink for free for Ukraine because you wanted to do the right thing and you wanted publicity. And once you got the publicity, a couple months later, you said, I'm going to take it away. I'm cutting it off in a couple of weeks. And if it basically the unspoken part, and if it kills a bunch of Ukrainians and it literally destroys their military effort because I turned it off, too bad. I want money. And I said, that is really weird. That's really weird. I mean, he should have done the offer we all get where they say, you know what, I'll do it for 6 months. Either it's not useful, or if it is useful, I would expect the government to step in and help. Like, that wouldn't bother me. Thank you, Aggie, for the gift there. That wouldn't bother me, right? But he didn't do that. In any case, he's just so, God, we could do a whole show talking about that man. There's something very wrong about him, clearly. But I also think he's whatever. I don't want to talk about Musk too much today because we have other important Ukraine stories. So, yes, Elon is a big bleep. He certainly is. What do you got here? Russia. Oh, that's interesting from MT History Buff. Russia has a large amount of the world's rare earth metal supplies, and I believe lithium supplies required for EV batteries. I know lithium is very important. There's another element, and I'm forgetting what it is. I used to know. Is it copper? I'm forgetting. What's the other element that's really important for Elon's turning into another UN? That's very true, Poppy. I'm forgetting the other element, but yeah, lithium's super important, but there's another one as well. Cobalt? Okay, a couple people are saying cobalt simultaneously, so I'll guess that that's correct. Yep, lithium and cadmium. Okay, so there's a number of them. I don't know what Russia has. I do know Russia has a lot of minerals in addition to gas and oil, but I don't know about those. Ooh, and then one I haven't even, adamantium? That's a mineral? I've never even heard of that. Wow. Interesting. He's a mess. That girl's a mess, as we say. All right, let me pull up another question here on TikTok. Actually, I don't think I even did on this TikTok here. I was doing it off the screen since not everybody could pose questions there. If NATO does enter the war, how do you think Turkey would react? Isn't that an interesting? I don't know. Turkey is trying to play both sides. Turkey certainly wants to have a special relationship. Hello, dog. What you doing? Can I pick up? I know you hate being picked up, but we'll do a quick hello. This is Sasha. She woke up from her nap, so we figured we'd say hi really quick. But she hates being there. You say she's already fighting me. There you go. Okay? I know. All right? You want to go down? There you go. All right. She doesn't like being picked up. I mean, I can pick her up. When I pick her up like that, very unhappy. So she was like, "Argh." Yes. My sister's dog, however, I could have her here the whole time and she'd sleep on my chest. We'll try that another time. Yeah, Turkey would be funny because Turkey's trying to play both sides, and Turkey definitely wants to play. They want Russia. Kukla's sleeping under the table in the bed. She likes to sleep in the bed right where I work here because it's cute. But in any case, yeah, Turkey would play both sides. I think Turkey probably. I don't know. Turkey would be interesting. Turkey would be interesting. Turkey might actually. No. We're not playing with you right now. No. Turkey might even try to sit the war out. I wonder if that were to happen. If NATO were to literally go to war with Russia. I don't know. Yeah, it relies heavily on Russian tourists. They're a mess. Or actually, what would happen is Turkey would make us bribe them to death. Right? It'd be like going to the souk or whatever you call it in Turkish. They would make us bribe. They would nickel and dime us to death, and we'd have to bribe them, 6 ways to Sunday or whatever the expression is, for them to basically join the war with us. And then they would join the war after we bribed them, just like what they're doing to Finland and Sweden right now. And I'm sure the U.S. is having to pay a heavy price to Turkey for Turkey to approve Finland and Sweden for NATO. I guarantee you. Yeah, I would. Oh, I would never. Exactly. MT History Buff is saying Turkey is an authoritarian government, and I would not count on them to do the right thing. No, they would need to be bribed. They would absolutely, positively need to be bribed to do the right thing. Absolutely. Uh, what do you do? Ah, um, let me look at another question here. Will TikTok soon be banned in the U.S.? Maybe. Um, you know, there's a bill. Just because somebody authors a bill doesn't really mean much. The Marco Rubio, Republican senator who wants to be president, that's important. Very conservative, authored this legislation along with some Democrat that no one's ever heard of from the House of Representatives. And they're just going to pretty much ban TikTok. Yeah, which would obviously kill my show and lots of other shows. You know, I will say, because it's a little weird, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me here. I find TikTok very useful. I find it very entertaining. For the war, this has been really helpful, right? I mean, I find this has been an amazing tool to use. There are a lot of folks who are concerned about what actually is happening behind the scenes with TikTok's software, with what it's learning about you, what it's learning about things you do on your phone. There's concern because the parent company of TikTok is in China. It's a Chinese company, and it's China. So there's concern about what the Chinese government's role either is or could be in TikTok in the future, what they could do with the data. I do know that U.S. government agencies do not forbid U.S. government employees from having TikTok on their phone. I have even had, and I've told folks this, I have had people I wanted to get to come on as guests on my show, and they refused to come on. People that I've had on my podcast before years ago wouldn't come on TikTok because it was TikTok. So, TikTok, and I think they know this now, they've got to work on their reputation in Washington, but also they've got to figure out what to do about the whole privacy issue and everything else, So anyway, that's what's going on. I don't think anytime soon they're going to be banning it. I think my guess is, at the very least, Biden probably would love to do a shot across the bow of TikTok, meaning even if Biden wouldn't want to ban TikTok, Biden would want to scare TikTok into thinking it could get banned as sort of a negotiating chip to try to get TikTok to do some of the things the American government wants them to do, to help ensure sort of things are a little safer for Americans, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's what's up with TikTok. So I don't think it's happening anytime soon, but TikTok has to be careful. I do think they've got to be careful. Rebecca Wilson, because owned by Chinese, it doesn't help. Rebecca Wilson, do you think Russia is using the war as a diversion and the real goal is to take over the world economy? I mean, the question, no, not necessarily. Look, Putin wants Ukraine, okay? Really wants Ukraine. Crimea, they invaded and took Crimea first, which is the peninsula in the south of Ukraine. That was back in 2014. That's been a, long time Russian goal ever since. And we always forget that I think Khrushchev is who I think you guys told me it was Khrushchev that gave Crimea back to Ukraine. I think you guys said. So that would take you back to like 1960 or so, give or take. Or maybe a little before. So, the Russians would like to get it back. Okay. They'd like to get it back. Invading Ukraine was part of Putin's gambit. He got a lot of credibility from the Russian voters when he stole Crimea back in 2014. The Russian voters loved it. So that was a big deal. And I think he thought, this is great. I'll invade again. And this time I'll get all of Ukraine and the voters will love me even more. I mean, it's a dictatorship, but still, he's got to keep people happy. He's got to keep the military happy, right? He's got to keep the secret services, or the secret, meaning the secret police and everything happy. So I'm adjusting my shirt. My shirt's like itchy as I'm talking to you. So invading Ukraine did that. So I don't think Ukraine was to necessarily take over the world economy. I think now Putin is looking at the invasion of Ukraine as an opportunity to somehow drive a wedge between America, the developed world, and developing countries. And I just think that's what he's trying to do. Now, whether he's actually going to pull it off, I have a hard time, because he's invading his neighbor that is not exactly, Ukraine. I don't even know what you'd call Ukraine. I don't know if you'd call Ukraine first world, second world. I don't know what you'd call them. But they're at least a country where I would think a developing country would look at Ukraine and feel some sympathy. They don't look at Ukraine and think Ukraine's like America, right? Where they can't relate to it. I think they look at Ukraine, and even though Ukraine probably has a better standard of living than a lot of developing countries, not all though, not all. Latin America, Ukraine would be on par with Latin America. I'll bet you a lot of the Latin American countries, I think, first world, but it's still potentially a developing country to a degree, if you consider Argentina a developing country, even Brazil, right, which is a very developed country that is still developing. That's what I'm saying. So you've got some developing countries that would look at Ukraine as a sister country, I would think, right? Argentina would not look at Ukraine and think, oh, Ukraine, they're so much more advanced. I mean, I lived in Argentina. The Argentines would look at Ukraine and think of them on a similar level, would be my guess. In any case, there you go. That's my take on that. Let me just look here. Yeah, I mean, this is good. I kind of don't report these things because but it's good for the Ukrainians. The Czech Senate has just recognized Holodomor? I can never pronounce it. Or Holodomor? I thought it had an ear, but it's really the Russian genocide against the Ukrainians, or the Soviet genocide against the Ukrainians, 1930s especially, as a genocide. That's something the Ukrainians have been really trying to push, getting internationally. Okay, sorry about this. I've got... Yes, Elise. Hey, Elise, thank you for that. This is way off track. But half of China is probably going to have COVID all at once in the next few months. Wonder what effect this will have on Xi, who's the leader, and his geopolitical plans and alliances. I mean, one problem. Oh, Holodomor? Okay, thanks. Holdolimor? Wait, no, you're writing something else now. All right, sorry, people are writing different things here. I think it's Holodomor then. So if a lot of China comes down with COVID at the same time, it's going to affect the economy clearly. They're going to shut down. I mean, they're probably going to shut down even more because that tends to be their reaction to COVID. It's certainly going to take people out of work. The good thing is that if you don't get, good thing. I mean, a certain percentage of people are going to die, right? A certain percentage are going to get long COVID. When you're talking about a country like Russia, that ends up being a lot of people, though, right? China, because China is, what is it now? I'm going to guess 1.5 billion people. Hold on. What is the population of China? Let's see. 1.44. Okay, so almost 1.45. 1.44. So almost 1.5 billion people. Even 0.1%, right? I doubt it's a 1% death rate, but it could be a 0.1% death rate. Who knows, right? That's still a lot when you're talking 1.5 billion with a B people. Long COVID. If long COVID affects let's say conservatively 5 to 10% of the people that get it, that could still be that would be millions. Oh, hell. What's 1%? Let's say half of China gets COVID, 750 million, okay? 1% is going to be 7 million. So if just 1% of Chinese get long COVID, that's 7 million. If 5%, it's 35 million. That's a lot of people. And depending who it hits, because it's not hitting kids, it's hitting the elderly, okay? But it's also, anyway, it's going to affect their I don't think it affects their alliances. I think it potentially really affects their economy. And it depends if it's a big hit or whether it's an ongoing hit. Like it keeps hitting cities and mind you, the cities get shut down. People can't go to work. It could be a mess. But if you talk to some people in our country, it won't happen because COVID isn't real. So no problem. All they have to do is click their heels 3 times and say, COVID isn't real. That is an interesting question, though. That is a very interesting question. Deep, 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 deep. Let me see here. What else we got here? Oh, that's sad. Jingle Bells is saying on Twitch, a 7-year-old Maria Leginkovoska, something like that, got killed in a hit and run in Montreal. She was a Ukraine refugee, 7 years old. It's a big story here in Quebec, and I'm heartbroken. I would like to have recognition for her. Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, that's awful. Wow. Wow. Right. Right. Well, now here's an interesting question. So Solomia is saying, although I'm not sure which way you're referring, Solomia. Solomia is saying, I have noticed many people think because Europe that it must be rich. I don't think they know. Now, the question there is whether, do you mean because Ukraine is Europe, it must be rich, is what I think you're saying, right? Now, I will say, there's parts of Europe that aren't that rich either. There's certainly, hey, stop, we're not playing yet. Stop, no. There's parts of southern Italy, parts of Greece. I mean, the Russians, but I don't consider Russia Europe, period. God knows Russia's poor. But, anyway, that was the only reason I raised the question about Ukraine, because I've seen enough images from Ukraine to see the very developed side in the big cities. And I have also seen the very underdeveloped side in the countryside. Just seeing where we've raised over $80,000 of humanitarian aid for Ukrainians via my social networks with you guys. And I've seen the videos of the people we have delivering the aid, the help to Ukrainians. And these guys are living in rural areas that look shockingly poor to an American. Having said that, we have shockingly poor Americans too. I mean, you could go to places in the deep South of America that probably look just as poor. So it's very confusing. So it's very confusing. Pretty much, I would need a Ukrainian to tell me kind of how Ukraine ranks compared to developing countries versus, developed countries in terms of that, Anyway. All right. I got Elise's already. Thank you for that. Let me look here. Looking for more questions here for the last couple minutes. It always kind of cracks me up when everybody hey, Craig, when everybody sort of starts chatting amongst themselves, especially on YouTube. It's always kind of an amazing conversation people have. Craig Prescott, thank you, Craig, is saying, what do you think the concern over supplying Patriots is really all about? Do they perhaps rely on NATO and U.S. satellites behind the scenes? Well, okay, let's answer the second part of your question first. There's an interesting question as to how Ukraine is shooting down so many of the Russian missiles and so many of the Russian drones, right? How they're getting such a good job of shooting them down. Are they getting help from the Brits or the Americans or somebody? We know we're providing them intelligence. Who knows? Who knows how much we're helping or how much we're not, right? So I think it's a guarantee that NATO satellites are already helping Ukraine. We're probably not giving them the actual satellite imagery. That's highly classified, but we're probably analyzing it and giving them the information. So I think that's happening anyway. I think the concern about supplying, the Patriots, there were two things. One, I saw this discussion early on about, well, we can't give the Ukrainians Patriot missiles because what if the Russians get their hands on them? And, okay, but for the Russians to get their hands, I mean, at least after the first couple weeks of the war, it was clear the Russians were not going to have much of a blitzkrieg. It's not like the Russians are just charging through Ukraine, 100 miles a day, right? Like, oh my God, they're overrunning us. That's not happening. So the idea that Russia's going to get its hands on a Patriot missile, good luck. The battery, good luck. I think for whatever reason, President Biden is convinced that Putin is incredibly dangerous. And if Putin feels like we're escalating, he could do something crazy. I think Biden's wrong. Journalists I've talked to have told me, at least some journalists I've talked to told me, they think this message is coming to Biden from General Milley, who is our top general at the Pentagon. that he's the one that's panicked about Putin, and he's the one that's put this in Biden's head. Now, Milley's not an idiot, so if Milley's concerned, I at least give it some credibility. I mean, I would say you got to consider that. That's a legitimate, at least it's a legitimate argument if it's coming from Milley to at least consider. But I think for whatever reason, Biden just thinks it's Oop. Go to B21. Somebody saying hi from Australia. Hello, Australia. Yasu. That's all I can say is he, for whatever crazy reason, Biden was thinking all along that this was such an escalation. And I think he's nuts. Also, and I said this yesterday, the way you respond to Russia buying missiles that can go 300 kilometers, 200 miles from Iran is to give Ukraine missiles that can go 200 miles or 300 kilometers, right? If the Russians can go to outside countries and get these missiles, then why can't we as an outside country give it to Ukraine? Same missiles. I mean, the missiles are different, but the missiles have the exact same range, right? That would be what I would have done. I would have done that, and I would have said at the same time, don't do it, dogs. Okay, good. At the same time, we are giving you the Patriot missiles to defend the incoming missiles. But I would have absolutely, it drives me a little crazy. Thank you, Inspired Woman. It drives me a little crazy. So I don't know. But as I said earlier on, a defensive weapon like that, like a Patriot, it's kind of stupid to say, we can't share it. All right, maybe one more, and then I'm going to probably call it quits because we're already at 7:00, and I try to not. Super chat Craig. There's Craig right there. Yep. Gotcha. So we got anything else here? Oops. Hang on. So I'd like to scroll. Well, that's the thing too. Yeah. WC Fields is saying about Ukraine. The Russian soldiers phoning home to the mom and saying, "Mom, they're all rich here. All the roads are paved." That is something that happened. When the Russians first invaded Ukraine, they had intercepted the Russian phone calls from the troops back home. And they were kind of blown away at how rich, I'll do the recap, at how rich Ukraine was compared to Russia, which is very interesting. So that was just very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Now that could be. Dan Metcalf is saying $4 million per Patriot missile is what he heard. Let me just see here. How much does a single Patriot missile cost? 2 million each. Come on up. There you go. My dog wanted to join me. Yeah, the Pac 2s are 2 million, 3 million. Okay, so 2 to 3 million a missile. That's a lot. This is another reason why they would be used for very high value targets, and they would be used against I don't want to say high value missiles and things, but basically if the Ukrainians, with our help, would be able to discern which are the missiles they've really got to be careful with, right? Which are the missiles they've really got to be careful with. That they say, yeah, when that missile comes in, we've got to use the Patriot. And when that missile is coming in and hitting one of these targets that we're trying to defend because they're so important. But that's, they are expensive. That's why you wouldn't use it just to shoot down a $10,000 Iranian drone or something. Yeah, you wouldn't. All right, I will do the quick recap at the end of the show. We'd like to sort of just go through the stories we hit on today because, well, 2 million and 3 million, it depends. It depends each. Yeah, but they're a big deal. I mean, they're a very effective system. And again, depending what the Russians are throwing at it, the Russians, some of these missile attacks the Russians have done on Ukraine, these overnight attacks Russia's been doing. Forbes magazine has been doing an analysis of what it cost. And some of these attacks Russia's doing, and I'm talking just an overnight attack, when Russia hits all these places across Ukraine, these attacks are costing somewhere from like $500 million to $750 million from the one attack the Russians are doing because of the combination of drones and weapons and everything else they're firing. So, one missile being that expensive is a lot, But if you're using it to protect, again, I just don't know what you'd be using it for. I just don't know. Meaning this is going to be the question. I think it's going to be interesting to see is, will we even be told what the Ukrainians would be using this to protect against? Meaning they're going to use it for the presidential palace. They're going to use it. Thank you, bad feeling. They're going to use it for their main electrical plant in Kyiv. Something like that. They could actually, they could potentially use it. Thank you, Annie. They could potentially use it. Well, here's an interesting story. Okay, here, think about this. Because again, this is the big question, is especially how expensive the missiles are. What would you use it? Well, read the story again today saying the Ukrainians are planning to build their own artillery shells because they need new artillery. And there's only so much Soviet artillery that remains from 50 years ago, 30 years ago. So they're looking at building up. They're looking at opening up a new Bayraktar factory, the drone factory in Ukraine. And I kept saying, well, how are you going to do that, right? The Russians will just bomb it. Well, how are the Russians going to bomb it is the question, right? So you could potentially use some Patriot missiles to defend Ukrainian military factories that are super high value, right? That's a possibility there, much more so than you could use it for electrical infrastructure potentially, but you could also really use it for a few of these plants. And actually, maybe you even build the plant near the electrical infrastructure potentially. I mean, you'd want to be careful because you don't want to give the Russians too much of a target, but maybe you put the new Bayraktar plant somewhere near the Kyiv big electrical generating facility, right? Something like that. Anyway, who knows? All right, guys, let me do the quick summary and then we're out of here. Sky News and other news stations are reporting that a children's torture chamber was found in liberated Kherson in southern Ukraine, where children were held and subject to psychological abuse at the hands of Russian troops. A former Russian soldier who claimed he served with a unit accused of committing war crimes in Bucha, Ukraine, described his experiences with the military. He says that they were basically told to shoot civilians. Anybody with a cell phone was shot dead because there was concern they would use the phone to report on their positions to the Ukrainians. Voice of America is reporting that Pentagon sources confirmed the U.S. will go ahead with sending Patriot missile systems to Ukraine. The fact that the administration has not come out and denied it, and the story's been out there for a day, makes me think the story's real at this point. Russia has deployed at least 60 additional military vehicles to Belarus. More dumb nuclear threats from Russians. A Russian commander came out and basically said Russia can't defeat NATO, because he says it's all about NATO, can't defeat NATO without using nuclear weapons. 20% of Ukraine's pre-war population has left the country as a result of the war, and another 10% are internally displaced, meaning they've had to leave their homes, but they're still in Ukraine. 64 Ukrainian prisoners of war have returned from Russia, and they include an American prisoner of war, a U.S. Air Force veteran who was fighting for the Ukrainians. The United Kingdom is going to train 90 Ukrainian judges for war crimes trials. The Pope has urged, European Parliament has approved 18 billion in euro aid for Ukraine. And finally, the Pope has urged people to spend less on Christmas and to instead give the money to Ukrainian families in need. And I just posted the link again to you guys on YouTube, etc. And for you guys here, I put a wonderful link up. If you go to my profile, you see the link in my profile that says Linktree on TikTok. Click it. It brings you to a page of links. The very top link is a Christmas link. Click that, and it'll take you to a Ukrainian government website that lets you basically give money in response to children's letters to St. Nicholas. And it's really wonderful. The Ukrainian government sent it up. You can either donate like $14 or $27. It's one or the other. I mean, it gives you the option. And you are literally giving, this is the neat part, you are giving the gift certificate that goes to that kid's family. So like, as soon as you give, that kid's family will get a gift certificate, which is kind of cool. So very neat. Anyway, you can find it in my link tree, or just go to erevosis.com. Actually, go to erevosis.com anyway, because there you can find this link. You can find my Discord community. You can find my Patreon, where you can become monthly contributors to support my work here. You can find my store, which I've got set up, which is very cool for Ukrainian-themed goods. You can find my PayPal if you just want to support me in general. And then finally, do check out the Discord, because we've got cool, I've got cool auctions going on in the Discord. A number of military patches from Ukraine going up. The auction ends tonight. In the next day or so, day or 2 days, I have to see it, 2 days, I think, that the Ukrainian commemorative stamps. I've got stamps from Ukraine, bridge getting blown up, the Moskva, the Russian warship go F yourself boat. They've got commemorative stamps, so I can't say the word, commemorative stamps. So I've got those being auctioned off there. Anyway, lots of different stuff. So check the Discord for that. And voila. So yes, thank you, Dark Chef. Thank you, everybody, making money off of war. Would you like me to work full-time for free? I know in your communist future that you wish we would all have, that would work. But unless we're living in Star Trek in the 24th century, someone's got to pay the bills. So I'm doing this for free. You guys can go ahead and block the world peace guy. Yeah. I think world peace, by the way, world peace, total Russian. That was when I was traveling in the Soviet Union in the mid 1984. I remember how the phrase world peace, it was like miru mir, or miru mir, which, no, it would have been mir miru, I guess. Thank you, Harold, for the hat. And it was, huge signs all over like Moscow and Leningrad at the time, St. Petersburg. And the Russians were so big on their world peace. And they were the most bellicose, warmongering country on the planet. They were literally holding half of Europe hostage, right? They installed communist dictatorships, and these people, it is miru mir. Okay. I was going to say miru mir made more sense from my memory. Yeah. Thank you for that. The horrific people. But their big slogan was world peace. All they want is world peace. Why can't we have world peace? And it's like, oh, I don't know, because you're enslaving half of Europe and shooting people dead who try to flee the country. They wouldn't even let people leave their country. They had passports. The Russians, the Soviets had internal passports. You had a passport to travel within the Soviet Union, and leaving the Soviet Union, forget it. I mean, it gets me mad because, like, I lived through all of this. I mean, I lived as a Westerner through it, but I lived many decades through the Soviet years and visited the Soviet Union. And, I met some nice people. Thank you, Hazel, for that. I met some very nice people, but what a screwed up country. I mean, actually, I will have to tell you that story sometime. We met some black market traders that we befriended in Russia who were just amazing guys. And they got arrested for talking to us. Towards the end of the trip, the secret police were following us to an event. Mind you, it's an event that they organized for us. The secret police were there. They arrested our friends. The friends ended up okay because one of the guy's fathers was apparently important. But I mean, horrific place. So yeah, whatever. Miru my ass. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, moderators, for everything. Yeah, we'll talk about the Soviet Union some other day. But all right, guys. That is it. I will see you all tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, okay? Linktree is undergoing maintenance? Stop that. Oh, no. Well, I can't help you with that because I don't have the link in front of me. Also, to share with you guys is too hard. Actually, does somebody on YouTube, before I hang up, want to grab the link? I'll send it one more time and post the link. Oh, thank you, James. Look at you. I'm glad I didn't sign off yet. Thank you for that, James. Wave. Does somebody want to grab the link on YouTube that I just posted and post it on TikTok and see how well it posts in the comments? Now, I don't know. It's not going to be a clickable link. I don't know that you guys can actually copy it. Thank you, Walt. I don't know that you can actually copy it, though. That's the only problem. Let me see here. I'm going to try my own little link here. Oh, no, my link tree's up. Link tree's up. It works. Just type in don't even worry about it, Roshan. Just type in erevosis.com. It'll work. I just did it. I pulled it up. And the very first one says answer a kid's letter in Ukraine. And you just scroll down and you'll see the letters listed, and it tells you which letter's been answered and everything else. I mean, it's really wonderful. Yeah, just do that. Putin looks puffy. Yeah, go check it out, guys. I mean, it really is. I think it'd be nice just to, like I said, I think the cheapest one you can do is $1,400, and the next level up is 27 or something. Oh, you can do a quantity of 25 at 27 a piece. Oh, that's interesting. Well, the only thing is, for some of these kids, they only want one, right? So I don't know. Oh, unless it's multiple family members or something. In any case, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. But it's very cool. Like I said, I think it's neat. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys tomorrow night. Okay. All right. Be nice to each other. All right, guys. Thank you. All right. It is in my bio. It's in my bio. Just in my bio, click the link, and it's right there. You know, it's wartime. It's wartime. And maybe the government's taking a cut. I don't know. Nonetheless, it's worth it anyway. All right. See you guys.